Chapter 81. After guessing the reason behind the incident, Shen Xingyan was no longer as worried. After all, he had already started paying attention to his daily behavior in advance to cope with such events. His usual conduct was to be as low-key as possible, diligently controlling his words and actions, and trying his best to conform to the image of a normal farmer. These inspectors wanted to find something through these actions, but they couldn't really uncover his special nature. Furthermore, the star origin card's specific information could only be seen by the holder. As long as he could clearly explain the disguised information, the problem wouldn't be too big. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan also came back to his senses. Pretending to be dazed as if he had just returned from the star origin world and feigned annoyance, shouting outside, "Who is it?" Knocking on the door so early in the morning. As he spoke, he walked forward and opened the door. Upon seeing the two uniformed patrolmen outside, he also put on a fearful expression and whispered, "Be brothers, what's going on?" In this era where combat power reigns supreme, unless advanced combat professionists can rely on their own strength to stand tall against combat professionists, other combat professionists will involuntarily feel a hint of fear when they see combat professionists. Although combat professionists are constrained by the base system and dare not do anything out of line. In daily life, due to the inherent power gap, this emotion has become widespread in society. The two patrolmen saw Shen Xingyan's reaction was just like that of previous peasant professional. The chubby patrolman couldn't help but let out a soft tisk, already prejudging that this house was another dead end. But he still questioned Shen Xingyan as required. "According to the instructions from the base's superiors, we are conducting a routine inspection of you. Please state your body attributes and recent activity trajectory one by one so we can verify them later. Then we will check the situation in your home. You'd best cooperate well." When the chubby patrolman spoke, he didn't even look Shen Xingyan in the eye. His casual attitude, coupled with his arrogant tone, fully displayed the demeanor befitting a superior. The tall, thin patrolman beside him, however, quietly added, "Don't worry, we're just doing a simple check. We won't damage anything in your home." Unlike the chubby patrolman, the tall, thin patrolman's tone was somewhat calmer, full of a business-like attitude. His understanding differed from the chubby patrolman's. He knew very well that although strength could indeed allow one to do as they pleased in this era, but after all, this was still a society among people. Who could guarantee that a combat professional wouldn't have a strong background or connections? It wasn't unheard of for people to capsize in a ditch. Caution is the parent of safety. Being kind to others is always a hidden retreat for oneself. Although Shen Xingyan already knew the purpose of their visit, he still put on a surprised yet submissive act. He quickly nodded and reported the attribute values he had prepared. Then described his skill as the previous 10% growth speed effect, and his innate skill was changed to a 30% increase in stamina. "Oh, you're a little genius with full attributes upon awakening, but unfortunately, you're out of luck. You awakened as a farmer. Your innate skill is quite fitting for this profession. You're truly a standard candidate for farming." The chubby patrolman couldn't help but mock Shen Xingyan after hearing his attributes. Then, perhaps feeling that his previous words hadn't fully conveyed his superiority, he continued to the tall, thin patrolman beside him, "See, I told you there's no point in training so hard at school. In the end, you still end up like this. You still have to rely on awakening to change your fate. Ha." The tall, thin patrolman, upon hearing this, did not respond, but instead looked at Shen Xingyan with eyes full of pity, lamenting that such high attributes were truly a waste. It was hard to imagine the difficulty of such a talent appearing in such a remote place. Shen Xingyan showed a bitter smile, without any rebuttal, and simply accepted the other party's taunts. Then he recounted his recent movements, everything except for the matter of killing the giant rat. These things could be investigated if they were determined, so there was no need for him to lie about them and cause unnecessary suspicion. A farmer, quite ambitious, Tusk. What a pity. If someone like you were around before the primordial energy outbreak, farming might have had some prospects. But now, there are plenty of strange foods from the extraterritorial world and food from the star origin world. Farming has no future. What's the point of you being so ambitious, kid? After suppressing Shen Xingyin, this former genius, the chubby patrolman felt much better seeing that the other party didn't react much. After all, he was a bottom dweller in school, and now being able to step on a genius was a satisfying experience for him. After understanding all the circumstances, the two walked into the room and strolled around. Shen Xingyin did not try to stop them. His home was already empty. The rabbit meat from before had been eaten, and there was nothing valuable inside now. Indeed, the chubby patrolman's booming voice came out. It's truly destitute. Nothing at all at first glance. Even giant rats would leave in tears, only the kitchen has some food. Forget it, let's hurry to the next house. The two patrolmen roughly scanned Shen Xingyin's house and found nothing valuable or unusual. Not only that, but the poverty of this household also refreshed their understanding. Before leaving, the tall, thin patrolman couldn't help but softly advise, "Young man, accept your fate. What's the point of struggling more? Instead of spending that money on martial skills and training halls, you might as well save up and rent a house in the inner ring." The extraterritorial world hasn't been peaceful lately. While advising Shen Xingyin, this patrolman seemed to know some inside information, but he only hinted at it and did not speak too clearly. Shen Xingyin naturally felt the patrolman's goodwill. In this era, the polarization of human hearts was becoming increasingly severe, and some dark aspects were magnified, making people feel as if the world was full of darkness. But often, at such times, light was especially precious. Shen Xingyin smiled genuinely, nodded to the patrolman to express his gratitude, and after watching the two leave, he closed the door, his face no longer showing the subservient expression from before, returning to his usual stern demeanor. Chapter 82. I really didn't expect a few star origin reward announcements to cause such a big reaction. It seems I need to be more careful in the future. Shen Xingyin secretly warned himself, then felt a bit troubled. After all, according to his plan, breaking records should become a common occurrence in the future. If there were always world announcements, it would indeed be too ostentatious. He wondered if Star Origin could cancel such announcements. He would try it later to reduce his presence as much as possible. While troubled, he also thought of the tall, thin patrolman's unsettling words just now. Their authenticity should be guaranteed, as he was a low-level farmer, and the other party had no reason to deceive him. It seems the moving schedule needs to be brought forward as soon as possible. Shen Xingyin couldn't help but exclaim. Various thoughts and plans flashed through Shen Xingyin's mind. He gently rubbed his temples, then temporarily cast aside these distracting thoughts, took out his Star Origin card, and focused on his comprehension skill. During the inspection and questioning by the two patrolmen just now, his comprehension skill had already cooled down and was ready for use. Without the slightest hesitation, Shen Xingyin activated his comprehension skill. The familiar sensation reappeared, and the transparent figure in his mind reappeared, beginning to practice the subduing demon staff. Shen Xingyin skillfully picked up the staff and began to practice, following the movements of the little man. He focused intently on observing the transparent figure's movements while correcting his slightly awkward staff technique. After more than 10 minutes, he felt the force in his hand suddenly increase significantly. And he knew that the subduing demon staff in his hand must have broken through a small stage. After putting away the staff, Shen Xingyin quickly checked the martial skill introduction in his attribute panel, subduing demon staff entry level. After activating the martial skill, consume corresponding stamina to temporarily gain strength +3, defense +1, attack range +6 meters. Current progress, 50%. Indeed, when an entry-level martial skill reaches 50% progress, there will be a small increase. Both the attack power and attack range of the subduing demon staff increased. Although it was only a 1-point increase for each, Shen Xingyin was very satisfied. Although he knew that such a visible improvement would only occur when the comprehension skill was active. Knowing his progress was an encouragement for those cultivating martial skills. Seeing that 50% progress, this real-time visible progress filled him with motivation to practice martial skills. He then wasted no time and immediately continued practicing. The precious insight time could not be wasted. While Shen Xingyan was immersed in practice, all human race bases on Blue Star were frantically screening peasant professional. And the farmer profession seemed to have returned to the stage of history at this moment, once again attracting everyone's attention. All of a sudden, everyone is discussing the farmer profession breaking records. It seems the influence of the talent stone is quite significant. Those big families should be cultivating a large number of people because of this. I heard that many peasant professionals who couldn't figure out wheat have started working on vegetables that ripen in 2 or 3 days. The Jian family has a farmer whose talent is crop quality +1, and they have already started to focus on cultivating him. The Lai family even has in crop yield +10%. If they had the bonus of a talent stone, breaking records would be even easier. Isn't that right? We lifestyle professionals can only break records by quality, but peasant professionals are lucky. As long as their yield increases a little each time, they can get a breakthrough reward. If someone could control the yield per mu, wouldn't that be heaven-defying? Are you kidding me? How could anyone control the yield? Take the recent record-breaking wheat, for example, it jumps around. Don't make such jokes, it's too terrifying, I'm scared. Due to the appearance of a talent stone, all professionals began to discuss it to varying degrees. Some were excited, some were watching, and some began to think about and explore the peasant professional around them, and so on. However, this is also human nature. After all, the talent stone cannot even be searched for in the Star Origin Mall. At least with the human race's highest authority at this stage, no one has been able to reach the unlock conditions for this. Moreover, unlike other special items, it has no usage restrictions and can be used indefinitely. This shows that its preciousness cannot be compared to anything at the current stage, which is why those in the know would go crazy for it. However, Shen Xingyan, the ultimate beneficiary currently immersed in practicing the subduing demon staff, had no time to care about the discussions of those outside. As the feeling of the subduing demon staff in his hand got closer and closer to the transparent figure in his mind, he successfully raised the subduing demon staff to a major realm in the last few minutes, before the insight time was about to end. Subduing demon staff entry level. After activating the martial skill, consume corresponding stamina to temporarily gain strength +6. Defense +2, attack range +8 meters, 10% chance to generate a staff force shockwave, dealing +20 physical attack damage. Current progress, 3%, the insight time ended. Shen Xingyan, exhaling deeply, was checking the description of the subduing demon staff on his Star Origin card, a satisfied smile on his face. This time, the subduing demon staff's realm advancement brought a huge increase in attributes and attack range. And it even gained a new special effect, just like the dragon elephant fist. Shen Xingyan thought that in combat, if he suddenly unleashed this single staff strike, wouldn't the opponent be stunned? Putting away his joyful mood, Shen Xingyan began his next training session. After a day of training, what seemed like a somewhat monotonous routine to outsiders felt much more comfortable to Shen Xingyan. After all, he had maintained this lifestyle for over a decade, so he already had his own ways of finding joy in hardship. After leaving the training hall, Shen Xingyan and his sister returned home. During dinner, considering that today's inspection would likely have a follow-up verification stage, he once again reminded his sister not to mention the giant rat incident. "I won't tell anyone. With so much money, if others knew, wouldn't they be green with envy?" Shen Xingyan promised emphatically. Upon hearing this, Shen Xingyan smiled and ruffled the hair of his little money-grubber sister. After finishing dinner, he went directly to the cultivation space in the Star Origin world. Looking at his upgraded talent skill, he excitedly rubbed his hands. It was his first time summoning 2 little skeletons at once. Taking a deep breath, Shen Xingyin began to chant the familiar, though incomprehensible, summoning incantation. Chapter 83. As the summon skeleton skill began to be cast, the same soil-loosening phenomenon as before appeared in front of Shen Xingyin. Under the observation of Shen Xingyin and Wang Kai, two brand-new skeleton heads slowly emerged from the soil. However, the difference was that the scope of the loosening was noticeably larger this time. Shen Xingyin was not surprised by this. After all, the little skeleton with all attributes at 2 was indeed a bit larger in size. And this time, the summon changed from 1 to 2, so it was normal for the commotion to be a bit bigger. As Shen Xingyin's skill incantation was completed, 2 little skeletons, slightly larger than before, stood fresh and lively in front of him. Seeing this, Shen Xingyin's mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. This feeling of double happiness really makes one feel great. Shen Xingyin placed one hand on the top of each freshly unearthed little skeleton's head, expressing his welcome to them, and at the same time lamenting that the upgraded skill was indeed powerful. The new little skeletons seemed less cute, but were clearly much stronger. Besides Shen Xingyin, the second happiest person present was Wang Kai. When it saw that its master had actually summoned 2 little skeletons for it this time, its body began to tremble slightly with excitement. It subconsciously turned its head to look at its master, and a faint blue light flashed quickly in its eye sockets. If Shen Xingyin had seen it, he would have been surprised and at the same time noticed that the rhythm within seemed full of joy. After checking the attribute panels of the 2 little skeletons, which showed all attributes at 2, Shen Xingyin nodded in satisfaction and then handed them all over to Wang Kai. Although they looked stronger than Wang Kai's position as captain was not something they could replace. They still had to obey orders. Letting the little skeletons go to the farmland to work, Shen Xingyin stood comfortably by the field watching. It was then that he realized that, unknowingly, his skeleton army had already expanded to 18. At this moment, looking across the 5 acres of farmland, the little skeletons seemed to him to be a bit too numerous. Moreover, their attributes had doubled compared to before, and their movement speed and work efficiency had also increased significantly. Shen Xingyin thought back to when he first obtained this summon skill, and he instinctively felt a sense of disdain, somewhat looking down on these low-attribute little guys. However, comparing it to the current situation, Shen Xingyin couldn't help but exclaim, "How times have changed." Sometimes, the first impression is not accurate. Only with time can the truth be seen. But then again, how could my past self have known it would turn out like this? Shen Xingyin thought with a contented expression, then walked towards the farmland to check on the growth of the potatoes. According to his previous calculations, after tonight, the potatoes' growth time would reach 18 days, which means the growth progress would reach 90%. As long as he casts his professional skill tonight, the potato's 20-day growth cycle will be instantly completed. And at that time, it will be the harvest time for this rank 2 crop. Given that the experience points provided by the potato harvest will be quite substantial, allowing him to directly raise his professional rank to 10, he will then be able to directly plant rank 3 crop. Therefore, he doesn't need to pay too much attention to how to control the final harvest time of the rank 2 potatoes. As long as it's a little later than the time he cast his professional skill yesterday, it will be fine. While considering these current situations, Shen Xingyin measured the size of the plants with his fingers and observed various manifestations of the potatoes, simultaneously combining this with descriptions of potato growth he had seen while researching information earlier, and began to analyze them item by item. However, the more he analyzed, the more certain the smile on his face became. Nothing else, every aspect of the potato's performance in his farmland now far exceeded the characteristics recorded in the data, making him even more confident in the likelihood of this harvest breaking records. But thinking about it, it's true. In reality, the best yields recorded in the data, for long-term crop, their various characteristics were more or less affected by task stagnation. This led to poor performance of the crop throughout various growth processes, thereby having a very significant impact on the final yield of the crop. And with the existence of the little skeleton, I have not only never been subjected to any star origin punishment, but also, under Mai and Wang Kai's guidance, through meticulous cultivation methods, the farmland has been managed in an orderly manner. It is only natural that its exhibited characteristics are superior to those in the data. Through analysis, Shen Xingyan, feeling increasingly confident, came to Wang Kai's side in a joyful mood and earnestly recounted the summoning of the two little skeletons just now. At the same time, regardless of whether Wang Kai could understand, he also described his future aspirations to it. If it were in the past, Shen Xingyan's act of drawing a big picture might have been met with disdain, but the simple-minded Wang Kai seemed to have taken it to heart. Its empty eye sockets became even more hollow, as if it was envisioning the future along with its master's words. After chatting with Wang Kai for a while, seeing that there was still plenty of time before the potatoes matured, Shen Xingyan did not stay there any longer, but returned directly to the real world to train. When he faced those two patrolmen today, although he pretended to be timid and afraid of trouble, the reality was that if a conflict truly occurred, with his current attack power, he probably wouldn't be able to break through their defense, let alone cause any substantial damage. This feeling of powerlessness made him even more eager to improve his own strength. However, without money to extract attributes from the star origin world, he could only seize every moment to slowly improve himself. In this mood, training time always passed quickly. Shen Xingyan felt as if he hadn't trained for long when the alarm clock he had set rang, pulling him out of his absorbed state. After a slight adjustment, Shen Xingyan returned to the planting space. Opening his attribute panel and seeing that his professional skill was already in an unusable state, he did not rush to use it. After all, the longer he delayed, the greater the possibility of breaking the star origin record. Shen Xingyan opened the star origin mall to check the price of potatoes. The star origin mall's acquisition prices for potatoes of different qualities varied greatly, even by several times. After confirming the price, Shen Xingyan helped the little skeletons eliminate the last maintenance prompt, then no longer waited and directly activated his professional skill. Chapter 84. As Shen Xingyan raised the novice staff in his hand high, all the primordial energy in his body began to surge out, converging at a point on the top of the staff, about to take effect on all the farmlands. However, at this moment, a star origin warning notification once again appeared in Shen Xingyan's ear. Ding tilde, it has been detected that you are casting a skill on some crops that are about to mature. The casting of this skill may fail for these crops. Do you wish to continue? After hearing this prompt, Shen Xingyan pondered for a moment, then couldn't help but shake his head slightly. Thinking to himself, it seems this about to mature prompt is judged based on the effects of my skill. If that's the case, as the wool shearing plan is implemented in the future, this prompt will probably gradually become familiar with me. Ugh, why do I feel like I'm being targeted? Although Shen Xingyan thought this in his heart, when he saw this warning prompt, he inexplicably felt a sense of peace. After all, the previous times this prompt appeared, the final results were quite perfect, which made him subconsciously feel that this prompt was a harbinger of his breakthrough record. Continue. Shen Xingyan smiled and nodded in agreement very naturally. Following Shen Xingyan's action, the primordial energy world also reacted swiftly. The primordial energy on his staff, which had been suppressed, successfully covered the entire farmland and smoothly played the role that the skill should have. Congratulations, you have successfully cast a skill, Farmer Experience +1. Upon hearing this prompt, Shen Xingyan also let out a sigh of relief. Although he had successfully cast a skill every time he encountered such a phenomenon, it was better to be safe than sorry. After all, if you walk by the river often, how can your shoes not get wet? Moreover, as such incidents become more frequent in the future, it is inevitable that there will be times when the casting is unsuccessful. After all, luck cannot always be on his side. Shen Xingyan was mentally prepared for the occurrence of unexpected events. As the prompt for successful skill casting came, all the potato plants began to pulsate as if in joy. The acre of potatoes planted yesterday was even more obvious, seemingly injected with a boost, shooting upwards fiercely. At this moment, Shen Xingyan's gaze was entirely focused on the 4 acres of potato plants that were about to mature, although no signs of growth could be seen on these plants. But Shen Xingyan knew that, beneath the hidden soil, the potatoes were growing at an extremely fast rate, which could be seen from the slightly bulging soil visible to the naked eye. Not long after, as the skill effect was completed, the harvestable icon appeared again above the farmland. Wang Kai, send 2 little skeletons to maintain the middle acre of farmland, and all other little skeletons will dig potatoes with me. At this moment, Shen Xingyan was completely energized and quickly began to give orders. He then quickly purchased 17 3-pronged rakes from the Star Origin Mall for this harvest. He didn't buy too many because he wouldn't be planting potatoes for much longer, so he didn't buy too many harvesting tools for this purpose. Holding the rake in his hand, he smiled and stretched his muscles. It was his first time digging potatoes, and he felt a sense of novelty. Just as he was about to start, he saw Wang Kai and the others standing there, not knowing how to begin. He immediately realized that digging potatoes was also a first for Wang Kai and the others, so it was perfectly normal for them not to know how to harvest. After calling Wang Kai to his side, Shen Xingyan began to instruct it on how to harvest potatoes. After you finish digging these potatoes, make sure to check if there are any left in the soil, understand? He had also learned the experience of digging potatoes by consulting information. Now, teaching Wang Kai was also a case of learning on the fly, as farming in reality was a luxury. Although Shen Xingyan's teaching was somewhat rote, Wang Kai's intelligence never failed Shen Xingyan's expectations. Being clever, it quickly learned and mastered it after Shen Xingyan taught it once. Then Shen Xingyan told it to quickly go and teach the other little skeletons. Although he himself could also simultaneously teach multiple little skeletons through the faint connection in his mind, it was not as convenient as Wang Kai for communication. There was nothing he could do, as the efficiency of teaching among skeletons was high. After a period of observation, he found that often with just a small action from Wang Kai, the other little skeletons could quickly understand and execute it. The efficiency of their communication was so high that even Shen Xingyan, their master, could not achieve it. Seeing that Wang Kai had already begun to execute his orders, Shen Xingyan no longer watched and began to dig potatoes in the farmland on his own. 4 whole acres of potatoes, even with his greatly improved physical fitness, was not an easy task. If it were just him alone, it would take a lot of time. Fortunately, Wang Kai and the others were all trained not long after. Every little skeleton took a shorter rake and joined the battle of this harvest. The efficiency of the 16 little skeletons, whose attributes had doubled, working at full capacity, made Shen Xingyan, who occasionally looked up at them, sigh with emotion. My life is truly good. I have such a group of hardworking, capable, and uncomplaining good employees. However, facing such a scene, not only him, but any farmer would express the same sigh. As the digging progressed, the digging movements of the little skeletons also became increasingly skilled from their initial clumsiness. The digging work that even advanced peasant professional would need 4 or 5 hours to complete was finished in less than an hour by the combined efforts of Shen Xingyan and the little skeletons. Watching the harvestable icon above the farmland slowly disappear, Shen Xingyan also plopped down, resting while quietly waiting for Star Origin World to give him his report card for this time. And Star Origin World did not make Shen Xingyan wait long. After a few seconds, the Star Origin prompt sounded. Congratulations, you have planted 2,400 square meters of potatoes this time, with a harvest yield of 28,000 kilograms, earning 5,600 farmer experience points. 28,000 kilograms, 5,600 experience points. Hearing the content of this prompt, which greatly exceeded his expectations, Shen Xingyan immediately lay down on his back. Leaning closely against this farmland, which he felt exuded a kind and familiar aura. This feeling of a bountiful harvest made his heart feel incredibly refreshed. Chapter 85. Shen Xingyan contentedly opened his attribute panel, checking the 5848 experience points displayed in the experience bar, and began to make a rough estimate in his mind. The final estimation result made his eyes glow. Such a large amount of experience points would not only allow him to successfully raise his professional rank to level 10, as expected. Moreover, the excess experience points could even allow him to directly advance to level 11. To advance from level 10 to level 11, a total of 2,000 experience points were required. But of course, the attribute increase was well worth the experience points. According to the basic knowledge explanations Shen Xingyan received in school, every level increase between 1 to 10 would grant all attributes +1 and free attribute points +2. A level increase between 11 to 20 would grant all attributes +2 and free attribute points +5. The increase was so significant, more than double the previous one. This also explained why professionals of levels 1 to 10 were considered complete novices in the eyes of high-rank professionals. In Star Origin World, level 10 was like a watershed, and various functions would only gradually appear once this rank was reached. For example, peasant professional could only purchase additional land and plant second-tier seeds once they reached this rank. And other professions would also successively unlock some functions. Among them, combat professionists were even more formidable. After reaching this rank, they could automatically generate a second professional skill, causing their combat power to skyrocket. Of course, this was only in Star Origin World. To also possess a second professional skill in the real world, one would have to spend a huge sum of money to extract it. Life professionals, however, would need to reach level 20 to enjoy the benefit of a second professional skill. Shen Xingyan pulled back his somewhat scattered thoughts, staring intently at the sky of Star Origin, waiting for the next prompt from Star Origin World. Based on the 28,000 kg yield displayed in the previous prompt, he could calculate that his potato yield per mu was 7,000 kg. If he remembered correctly, the highest potato yield recorded in real-world data was 3,800 kg. His current yield exceeded that by 3,200 kg. With such a high yield, even though Star Origin World had a recording threshold, a 7,000 kg yield would almost certainly break the Star Origin yield record, wouldn't it? As Shen Xingyan was thinking this, as if to confirm his thoughts, Star Origin's record-breaking prompt directly echoed in his ears. Congratulations! You have significantly broken the current record of 5,000 kg per mu for potato yield, successfully achieving a result of 7,000 kg. You are specially rewarded with cultivated land area plus 1,800 square meters, Origin Energy Cultivation Speed Permanently 10. Star Origin will make a full zone announcement. Do you wish to disclose the information? Upon hearing this record-breaking reward, Shen Xingyan, who had been leisurely lying on the farmland, suddenly sprang up. His eyes fixed on the prompt text that he heard first and then saw, muttering softly. Another 3 mu of land as a reward and a 10x Origin Energy Cultivation boost. This record-breaking reward is truly practical and generous. According to Shen Xingyan's understanding, after each professional reaches professional rank 10, Star Origin World would automatically generate a corresponding Origin Energy Cultivation technique to increase the primordial energy limit. Through extensive case studies, it was found that the speed of his cultivate was basically constant. It would take approximately 100 hours of cultivate time to increase the primordial energy limit by 0.1. Even if there were special items that could help increase cultivate speed, the highest they were said to reach was a 5x cultivate speed, and those were also temporary. However, his current reward not only refreshed his understanding of speed, reaching 10 times the normal rate, but with such a speed bonus, it meant he could increase his primordial energy limit by 1 point in 10 days. Moreover, This increase in cultivate speed was also permanent, which was incredibly exaggerated. Imagine, with 10 hours of cultivate a day, he would gain over 30 more points of star origin than others in a year. What about 2 years, 10 years? The gap would only grow larger. Furthermore, he now possessed the divine skill of comprehension skill, the more primordial energy he had. The higher his comprehension ability would be, and consequently, the faster he would improve his martial skill. Under this positive cycle, it was even possible for him to reach that legendary realm. The improvement from an entry-level elementary martial skill was already so significant. What if it were an advanced martial skill and an even higher realm? The attribute increase was something Shen Xingyan dared not imagine, and although it was temporary, it was very real during combat. After his excitement and thrill, Shen Xingyan brought his thoughts back to the present, and a question couldn't help but surface before him, making him begin to ponder. I don't even have a cultivation technique for primordial energy yet, so why did Star Origin World give such a reward? Is it because I harvested second-tier seeds this time? Then, when I plant third-tier seeds and break the record again, will there be rewards corresponding to third-tier seeds? Will advanced talent stones also be within reach? The emergence of this thought made Shen Xingyan's expression begin to glow with brilliance. As for the commotion Shen Xingyan made, Wang Kai, who had been constantly observing his master's movements, couldn't help but tilt his skull slightly. He was a bit confused as to why his master was behaving this way. In his impression, it seemed that every once in a while, his master would make some inexplicable movements. Although he didn't quite understand it, he would record everything, like a newborn child, full of curiosity about his master's every gesture and action. Do you wish to disclose the information? While Shen Xingyan was immersed in various analyses, Star Origin's prompt sound appeared again in Shen Xingyan's ear, pulling him back from his thoughts. At this moment, he instinctively wanted to choose not to disclose the information, but as the words came to his lips, he suddenly remembered his previous thought. Could he ask Star Origin not to make a full-zone announcement? Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan also showed a benevolent smile towards the sky, tentatively asking, "Brother Star Origin, can this world announcement be cancelled? If everyone knows about such a high reward, it's not conducive to the harmonious development of our Star Origin world, is it? Don't you think so?" Chapter 86. As Shen Xingyan's question, "No announcement," appeared, Star Origin World seemed not to have expected such a response, and the inquiring prompt actually trembled slightly. After all, for such a face-saving and secretly satisfying matter, someone would actually refuse. Star Origin World probably encountered such a situation for the first time. However, the prompt only trembled once before instantly disappearing. And then a new prompt immediately appeared. Would you like to consume 100 silver coins to cancel this full-zone announcement? This prompt gave Shen Xingyan a sense of urgency. Shen Xingyan had only made a simple, common-sense inquiry, but he didn't expect Star Origin World to actually reply to him. However, the 100 silver coins in the prompt made him suddenly stand there awkwardly. Then he thought helplessly, "This means everything can be negotiated for cancellation, but you have to pay. It's just that the price is a bit high. It seems my previous thought was indeed correct. Star Origin World is truly a bit of a miser. Everything requires money." Although Shen Xingyan thought this, he didn't say it directly. After all, getting a reply was already very good. He shouldn't complain and have Xingyuan withdraw the prompt. That would be a loss. Since the announcement could be cancelled, it was the best possible outcome. He opened his attribute panel and looked at his wallet, seeing that he only had a little over 50 silver coins, which was completely insufficient for payment. Not only that, he was still short more than 40. But even without money, he still had to pay, as this matter concerned his own safety in the real world. Before he had enough strength to protect himself, this money could not be saved. Forget it, I'll just sell potatoes. Anyway, I won't be short these 100 silver coins in the future. Shen Xingyan shook his head. Although he said that, he still felt a slight reluctance in his heart. Shen Xingyan began to wander around the farmland, collecting the potato mountains piled up by the little skeletons into his backpack space one by one. Adhering to the principle of diligence and frugality, he also put the potato leaves into his backpack. Although these things didn't look very valuable, if there were enough of them, even at a low price, they should still be worth something. After making sure all the harvests on the farmland were cleared, Shen Xingyan opened his backpack space and began to check the potato's attributes item. Potato excellent plus value, 15 copper quantity, 28,000 attribute, a basic food that provides a slightly stronger feeling of fullness. Looking at the excellent plus quality of the potatoes, Shen Xingyan nodded slightly. Although this harvest did not reach the outstanding quality, considering that the harvest time was indeed a bit early, such a quality was not surprising. If he waited 2 more days, it might reach the outstanding plus level, like the wheat he harvested yesterday, but the cost-effectiveness would not be high. After all, after this harvest, he had already unlocked the conditions for planting level 3 seeds. Planting level 3 seeds earlier would yield greater harvests, so there was no need to wait 2 more days. This is already very good. The Star Origin Mall's purchase price is also much higher than wheat. I should be content. Shen Xingyan comforted himself, then turned his gaze to the attributes of the potato leaves item. Potato leaves excellent plus value, 4 copper quantity, 8,000 attribute, a type of feed for raising animals. Oh, I didn't expect excellent plus potato leaves to be quite valuable. Before, I was only focused on checking the value of the potatoes and didn't look at the value of the potato leaves. This way, it's also a small income. Not bad, not bad. Shen Xingyan smiled at this pleasant surprise, and subconsciously his gaze fell on the words, raising animals, in the potato leaf attribute description. It is said that after peasant professional reach level 20, they can open low-level farmlands to raise animals. The output of animals, compared to planting crops, is much higher in value, and this is also the main source of income for high-level peasant professional. But for him, it might be different. After all, his professional skill increases growth progress by 10%, and its value can be said to be immeasurable. As his level increases, its value will become more prominent. For him, raising animals was at most an additional thing. With the existence of the little skeletons, he didn't need to worry about the farmland. And raising animals was just an entertainment project, unless he could get another BUG skill for raising animals. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan shook his head slightly, but secretly thought he was being a bit greedy and temporarily put this thought aside. He opened the Star Origin Mall and sold all the potatoes and potato leaves. Listening to the series of whooshing sounds in his ears, Shen Xingyan's eyes narrowed slightly, and his hands gently rubbed together. The sound of money arriving is truly wonderful, Shen Xingyan exclaimed while watching the small money in his wallet instantly inflate. 28,000 kilograms of potatoes sold for 420 silver coins, and the potato leaves sold for 32 silver coins. Plus my original 52 silver coins, I now have a total of 504 silver coins. It's about half a gold coin. This money growth rate is really good. I have so much money in just over 10 days. Although it can't compare to high-level professionals, it should already surpass top combat professionist at the same stage. Shen Xingyan calculated happily, then looked at the money in his wallet, and then at the prompt waiting for him to pay 100 silver coins. With a grand wave of his hand, he chose to pay. As the silver coins in his wallet turned into 404, indicating that the payment was complete, the Xingyuan prompt, as if fearing he would go back on his word, quickly disappeared without a trace, and the record-breaking reward began to be distributed simultaneously. The farmland began to shake rapidly. Except for the 1 mu of potatoes in the central district, which remained motionless. The boundaries of the other 4 mu of land began to expand wildly towards the edges, and the entire planting space also began to expand outwards. Shen Xingyan felt the vibrations from beneath his feet and felt an indescribable sense of comfort in his heart. In just over 10 days since his awakening, he already owned 8 mu of farmland, and none of it was bought with his own money. This was quite an explosive existence across the entire Blue Star. As he was lamenting, the boundaries of the farmland and planting space stopped expanding. The 4 mu of farmland that originally needed to be plowed before planting had also been thoughtfully renovated. Seeing this, Shen Xingyan no longer lingered. He focused on the experience bar in his attribute panel, looking at the upgradable prompt, and clicked it without hesitation. Chapter 87. As Shen Xingyan pressed the level up button next to the experience bar, his 5848 experience points were rapidly consumed. It cost 500 points to level up from 5 to 6, and 600 points from 6 to 7, and so on. The experience points required for each level increased by 100. However, when leveling from 9 to 10, it cost him 1,000 experience points. Shen Xingyan had already understood this exception before. After all, level 10 was a threshold with a breakthrough nature. So he could understand such an experience point requirement and had long been mentally prepared for it. Congratulations, your professional level has been raised to level 10. You are rewarded with all attributes +1, free attribute points +2, and skill cooldown -1%. We hope you continue to work hard and improve. Having reached level 10, he saw his overall attributes increase by 5 points, and his various physical attributes also received a significant boost. His free attribute points also increased by 10 points, and counting the 1 point remaining from before, his total free attribute points reached 11. I only took a little over 10 days to easily raise my professional level to level 10. The entire process was truly too easy and comfortable. If other combat professionists of the same generation knew about this, I can't imagine what their reaction would be. Thinking of this, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but feel a secret delight in his heart. Then, feeling a sign that he was about to get carried away, he quickly began to put pressure on himself internally, repeatedly chanting, "Be steady, don't be reckless." Under these 6 true words, he took a while to suppress this emotion. He secretly sighed. My cultivation of the mind is still not enough. A small improvement makes me a bit unable to handle things. How can this be? I must change in the future. Shen Xingyan severely disciplined himself in his heart, unaware that if others knew of his behavior, it would provoke even more intense emotional fluctuations. Calmed down, Shen Xingyan looked at the remaining 2248 experience points and had no intention of saving them, preparing to click to upgrade directly. Suddenly, the Xingyuan notification sound rang out again. Congratulations, your professional level has reached level 10. You have unlocked the basic origin energy cultivation method, Tranquility Skill, Tranquility Skill. After using it, the combat professional will enter a meditative state. At the same time, this method will operate on its own to increase the combat professional's primordial energy limit. The minimum meditation time is 2 hours. With the appearance of this prompt, the training function bar also appeared in Shen Xingyan's attribute panel, already in a ready-to-use state. Sure enough, the function of origin energy cultivation automatically activates after reaching level 10. I heard that when practicing this tranquility skill, one's mental state also gets effectively improved. Those high-level combat professionists who stay in Xingyuan for a long time all use this method while sleeping to achieve a win-win situation of both sleeping and training. It really sounds quite wonderful. Even though such improvement is relatively slow for them, it's better to have a steady flow. Shen Xingyan looked at this training method, thinking happily to himself. It's a pity that no matter how wonderful it is for them, it probably can't compare to me. I have the little skeletons taking care of the farmland, so I don't need to engage in much professional activity, and I can still achieve the state of both sleeping and training. Plus, with 10x speed training, it's probably a level they can't even catch up to. After happily finishing his thoughts, Shen Xingyan temporarily suppressed the urge to start training immediately. His top priority now was to first raise his professional level. Thinking this, Shen Xingyan immediately pressed the level up button and the Xingyuan notification appeared as expected. Congratulations! Your professional level has been raised to level 11. You are rewarded with all attributes +2, free attribute points +4, and skill cooldown -2%. We hope you continue to work hard and improve. Having consumed 2,000 experience points, his level successfully reached 11, and the rewards he received for reaching level 11 made his eyes light up. The attribute increase was within his expectations, although it doubled. It was also due to the increased experience consumption, giving a feeling of improvement that was still good. However, seeing the skill cooldown also double, this gave him a pleasant surprise. At this rate, by level 20, he would be able to cast twice a day. At that time, the crop would increase by 20% in progress each day, which is terrifying to think about now. Shen Xingyan happily looked at his attribute panel after leveling up. Name: Xinghuo Lai Aoyuan Shen Xingyan ID. 118,120,431 to 9527. Profession: Farmer Professional Skill. 1. Consumes a certain amount of primordial energy points to increase the growth progress of crop within a specified range by +10%. The larger the range, the more primordial energy points consumed. Interval 10 hours, skill cooldown 24 hours -11%. Level 11 experience, 248/3000 strength, 23 points agility, 23 points constitution, 24 points spirit, 21 points free attribute points, 15 points health. 240/240 points primordial energy, 25/25 points stamina, 17/17 points physical attack, 26 points magical attack, 24 points defense, 24 points speed, 23 points talent. Summon skeletons summons 2 skeletons with all attributes at 2 for combat cooldown 24 hours special skill. Insight martial arts. Dragon elephant fist entry level. Subduing demon staff entry level money. 0 gold 404, silver 246, copper. Looking at the attribute panel, which was luxurious compared to before, Shen Xingyan nodded with satisfaction. If he were to extract all these attributes to the real world, he would have the power to fight against that patrolman today. Although the leveling speed and money acquisition speed of combat professionist far exceeded that of life professions, the amount of gold coins required to extract so many attribute points to the real world was not small. Calculating at 10 gold coins per attribute point, a combat professional normally leveling up to level 10 could obtain 54 attribute points. To extract all of them to the real world, 540 dazzling gold coins would be needed. For a top combat professional without any backup, it would take at least 1 or 2 years to obtain so many gold coins. Of course, these are all under normal circumstances. Combat professionists like Shen Xingyan, who have special encounters, are not included in this scope. After admiring his refreshed attributes, Shen Xingyan also turned his gaze to the farmlands that were waiting for him to sow. Opening the Star Origin Mall and starting to search for level 3 crop seeds. Chapter 88. As Shen Xingyan successfully searched, all level 3 crop seeds in the Star Origin Mall were displayed before him. At a glance, the variety of level 3 crops was somewhat greater compared to level 2 crops. Shen Xingyan examined them one by one and found that seeds with various growth cycles were basically covered, and the large span of their growth cycles made him very satisfied. While examining these, he also calculated the cost-effectiveness of each crop based on the information he had previously learned, and finally found that most of them were not much different, which gave him a general understanding. After reaching this conclusion, his goal became very clear. To perfectly utilize his skill specialties as a farmer, his selection principle was to choose whichever crop had the longest growth cycle. Based on this principle, he compared them again, and after looking around, his gaze finally settled on the strawberry seeds item. Strawberry seeds value: 5 silver coins attributes, maturity period 50 days, plantable area 600 square meters. Seeing the description of this crop, a happy smile involuntarily appeared on Shen Xingyan's face. According to the description of the strawberry seeds, their growth cycle actually reached an astonishing 50 days, which was 30 days more than that of potatoes. And after checking, such a growth cycle could be said to be the longest among all level 3 seeds. Furthermore, Shen Xingyan also considered that most strawberry plants are short and easy to operate, making them very suitable for the daily labor of the little skeletons. For these reasons, he could make them his primary target. After confirming his target, Shen Xingyan began to ponder the information recorded about strawberries in the real world. As a level 3 crop, strawberries, due to their super long growth cycle, coupled with the inherent limitations of peasant professional. This caused multiple task stagnation phenomena to occur during the planting period, resulting in a general yield of only about 600 kilograms per mu. Which is why strawberries are in crop that many high-level peasant professionals shy away from. However, Shen Xingyan naturally didn't care about these things. On the contrary, he could be said to relish such a situation. With his skill to accelerate the growth progress of crops, he wished the growth cycle of crops was as long as possible. According to the information he collected, although strawberries were far inferior to potatoes in terms of yield, their value and experience were incomparable to level 2 seeds like potatoes. The purchase price of each kilogram of strawberries in the Star Origin Mall had reached 500 copper coins per kilogram. And calculating at 600 kilograms per mu, it would be at least 300 silver coins. Not only that, peasant professional could gain 6 points of professional experience for every kilogram of strawberries harvested. That's 6 points. Calculated, 1 mu of land could yield nearly 3,000 points of experience. Shen Xingyan calculated the price and experience of strawberries in his mind, and couldn't help but sigh that the improvement of level 3 crops was truly terrifying. This made Shen Xingyan, who was accustomed to planting potatoes and wheat for a dozen copper coins per kilogram, feel a mix of emotions, sighing, "There's no harm without comparison. So the low-level crops I planted before were worthless." While sighing, Shen Xingyan briefly calculated the final result and compared it with the potatoes he had just harvested. He found that after planting strawberries, even if the final yield was very average, the various benefits it produced would far exceed his record-breaking potatoes. However, this was only a general situation. After all, how could he only harvest an average yield when planting strawberries? Under the 24-hour uninterrupted care of the little skeletons, the final yield would definitely exceed the common perception of ordinary people, reaching a level that he himself found somewhat unimaginable. Shen Xingyan pondered for a while, finally selected the strawberry seeds to implement his wool-gathering plan, and then began to look for level 3 crops for transition. After screening the level 3 crops based on time, he finally selected 6 types of crops. They were tomatoes with a growth period of 1 day, cucumbers with 2 days, cauliflowers with 3 days, pumpkins with 6 days, and chili peppers with a growth period of 10 days, and watermelons lasting 35 days. Planting 1 mu of each of these 6 crops would allow him to harvest 1 mu of crops every day, maximizing the farmland's income and also making space for strawberry cultivation. Among these crops, Shen Xingyan estimated that only chili peppers and watermelons had a chance to break the Xingyuan's yield record. For short-growth crops like tomatoes, cucumbers, cauliflowers, and pumpkins, the possibility of breaking through is relatively low. After all, this world has many talented people, and there are many with good skill, and he doesn't have too many extravagant hopes. After selecting the crops, Shen Xingyan did not hesitate and purchased 1 mu's worth of each type of seed, spending nearly 4 silver coins under the 30% discount privilege. Then, he bought 8 mu of strawberry seeds in one go, spending 28 silver coins after the discount. Overall, the 30% discount privilege saved him nearly 10 silver coins on the seed purchase. It is conceivable that, as his professional level gradually increases in the future, the economic benefits brought by this 30% discount privilege will also become greater and greater. Wang Kai, come here, I'll tell you how these crops should be planted." After Shen Xingyan finished speaking, he took his little follower Wang Kai and began to stroll around these 7 mu of farmlands. As they strolled, they planned the overall distribution pattern. Finally, they decided to extend from the central mu of potatoes in all directions, dividing the areas where the 7 mu of land were located. Then he pointed out to Wang Kai what needed to be planted in each mu of land, one by one. Out of concern that Wang Kai might not remember so many classifications, he gave instructions in the form of commands. After all the farmlands had been visited, Shen Xingyan categorized and placed the seeds at the designated seed collection point, letting Wang Kai arrange them himself while he took the lead in planting the strawberry seeds. As he planted, he did not forget to check Wang Kai's distribution situation. Wang Kai just gently shook its little skeleton head, and all the little skeletons obediently came forward one by one to collect seeds, and then went to their respective areas to start planting. Looking at this orderly scene, Shen Xingyan was extremely satisfied and praised repeatedly. "Wang Kai is truly my lucky star." After a period of leisurely planting, with the joint labor of Shen Xingyan and his skeletons team, the planting task for the 7 mu of farmlands was completed in just over half an hour. Such efficiency would be tantamount to a fantasy in the eyes of other peasant professionals. Chapter 89. Shen Xingyan stood by the well, looking around at the vast farmland that had already been planted. A sense of groundedness gradually welled up in his heart. He knew it was the real feeling that effort would be rewarded. The farmer profession is different from combat professions, which are like opening a mystery box and winning a big prize by killing monsters. It's also different from those life professions that focus on success rates. This profession itself is full of a sense of peacefulness. And he went from an initial feeling of rejection to gradually accepting it, and now even finding it sweet. Not only because of his innate skill advantage, but also because farming, a quiet and steady activity, differed from the constant feeling of turmoil in the real world, which made him feel incredibly at peace. Shen Xingyan once again purchased fertilizer from the Star Origin Mall and placed it on the wooden board he had bought earlier. Given that he was planting level 3 crops this time, Shen Xingyan was worried that the Star Origin world's judgment might change. So he bought extra as a backup, in case the casting tasks increased and there wasn't enough fertilizer. Through observation, Shen Xingyan found that the Star Origin maintenance prompts generated by the level 3 crop appeared much faster than those for the potatoes in the farmland beneath his feet. Originally, 1 to 2 little skeletons could easily handle 1 mu of farmland, but now it required 2 to 3 little skeletons to work together. Fortunately, the little skeletons, whose attributes had been enhanced, handled it with relative ease, and their labor was fully utilized. Seeing these circumstances, Shen Xingyan felt a little relieved. It was already past 12 a.m., and remembering the newly unlocked cultivate function, he couldn't help but feel a bit eager. After entrusting everything to Wang Kai and the others, he quickly walked to one side of the farmland, assumed a sleeping posture, and began to eagerly experience it. After opening the attribute panel and finding the cultivate function, Shen Xingyan silently thought to activate tranquility skill, and the option for cultivate time appeared before his eyes. Shen Xingyan had understood this situation. He knew that once the cultivate time was selected, there was no way to interrupt it midway, and his body couldn't move too much. He could only return to normal after the time limit. After selecting the time, his first cultivate session officially began. As the cultivate began, Shen Xingyan instinctively felt his body relax. This feeling made him not want to move, only wanting to lie there quietly. However, just as he was about to quietly experience this cultivate state, a strange phenomenon suddenly appeared around him, causing his eyes, which were about to close, to widen slightly. In his eyes, he felt as if some transparent small particles suddenly appeared in the surrounding environment and began to rapidly gather towards him, then quickly merged into his body. At this moment, he was like the center of a vortex, constantly attracting these small particles that appeared out of thin air to approach him. And facing this phenomenon, which had never been mentioned in any data, Shen Xingyin was slightly stunned at first, then as if he had thought of something. He showed a look of sudden realization, and he couldn't help but sigh softly. It seems this phenomenon before me is caused by the tenfold cultivate speed mentioned in the reward. The tenfold difference has made the primal energy factor, which was originally only vaguely present, so directly apparent before me. No wonder it wasn't mentioned in the data. After all, such a cultivate speed is not common. Shen Xingyin watched the numerous lovely small particles in front of him, merging so smoothly with him, strengthening his primordial energy bit by bit. This scene instantly maximized his experience, and a sincere smile appeared on his lips. At the same time, he felt the wonderful rhythm brought by the circulation of tranquility skill within his body, as well as the rapid recovery of his mental energy. The combination of various factors made his entire mind feel a sense of ease. In this state, his eyes unconsciously closed, and he peacefully entered dreamland. As Shen Xingyin entered a state of sleep, the essence of tranquility skill seemed to begin to manifest, and the transparent small particles around him began to merge into Shen Xingyin's body at an even faster rate. What Shen Xingyin didn't know at this time was that after he fell asleep, above his 8 mu of farmland, some small particles emitting a faint green light also began to subtly float, and guided by tranquility skill, they began to merge into his body little by little, and began to slowly act upon his consciousness. As a result, in the real world connected to his consciousness, his body also seemed to have received some kind of nourishment, and an imperceptible change began to occur. Shen Xingyin maintained this cultivate state for 6 hours. When he awoke from his meditative state, all the anomalies he had observed earlier had completely disappeared. At this moment, he felt a sense of physical and mental refreshment, feeling that 6 hours of cultivate was more effective than 8 hours of sleep. Shen Xingyin gently moved his body, and after a big stretch, his whole person became much more energetic, as if he had been reborn. Opening the attribute panel, he saw that his primordial energy had not increased, but he didn't feel disappointed. After all, even with tenfold cultivate speed, he had only cultivated for a total of 60 hours, which was still less than half the time needed to increase his primordial energy by 0. Moreover, he was already very pleased with the state of his first cultivate session. After standing up, Shen Xingyin went to the farmland to check on the crop. He saw that, after more than 6 hours of natural growth, the crop with shorter maturity periods already had distinct plant shapes. Especially crop like tomatoes, which can mature in 1 day, had almost completed their growth, subtly beginning to flower and prepare to bear fruit. Then he focused on checking the growth of the strawberry in that farmland, only to see that the farmland was just an empty plot of land, with no signs of strawberry plants growing. Seeing this, Shen Xingyin was not anxious. Once he used his skill tonight, the effects would be very significant. After observing the condition of all the crop and the labor of the little skeletons, Shen Xingyin, finding everything normal, prepared to return to the real world. Just then, a series of world announcements rang in his ears. Professional What Happened to the Farmer has broken the current record of 108 kilograms of lettuce per mu, successfully reaching a yield of 115 kilograms. Special reward, a pair of outstanding cloth shoes. This is a district-wide announcement. Upon hearing this prompt, Shen Xingyin subconsciously looked at his bare feet, and an intriguing expression involuntarily appeared on his face. Chapter 90. The other party broke the record for lettuce with a 2-day growth cycle, so why did Star Origin World only reward a pair of shoes? Although I found from previous inquiries that breaking a record for an crop with a shorter growth cycle results in a very low reward, it doesn't need to be this low, does it? It's completely incomparable to mine. Even if the reward was outstanding grade shoes, at most they'd be worth half a gold coin or 1 gold coin. Relatively speaking, this reward is too low. This is the first time I've personally witnessed another farmer break a yield record. Truly, there's no harm without comparison. My apologies, brother. Shen Xingyin was puzzled but couldn't help but exclaim, and his previous conjecture became even more certain, on the basis that the crop's growth cycle is long enough. Coupled with the farmer's rank being low enough, and meeting certain prerequisites in star origin world settings that make this record difficult to achieve. Then, if one breaks the record under these conditions, the reward should be quite substantial, just like his own before. Conversely, the final outcome would be like this brother. What happened to the farmer? After figuring this out, Shen Xingyan slightly shook his head, wished that brother good luck in his heart, then left the planting space and returned to the real world. The appearance of this announcement in Star Origin World also caused a considerable discussion across the entire world. This is more like it. A farmer breaking a record should just get a piece of equipment. How could there be such generous rewards as before? Giving both a farmland and a talent stone, it's simply cheating. Exactly. The previous wheat yield must have been a bug, which caused such a reward. Now Star Origin World has probably fixed this loophole, so the rewards have returned to normal. What a pity. Why didn't we discover this loophole earlier? If I had known, I would have let my cousin try it. Selling that talent stone would have meant no worries about food and drink in the future. Looking at this reward now, forget it. The input and output are completely disproportionate. At this time, various peasant professional in Star Origin World, upon hearing this announcement, all began to discuss it. The previous suspicions and various emotions of envy and jealousy greatly diminished with the appearance of this announcement. Those advanced peasant professional, seeing such a result, also put away their previous disheartened thoughts and began to cultivate crops of their current rank in an orderly manner. Only a few peak peasant professional, after understanding the specific circumstances of the matter, were still tentatively planting crops with longer growth cycles, hoping for a different result. The farmer profession, which had been at its peak for a time, seemed to be returning to its original place. Meanwhile, what happened to the farmer? The protagonist of this announcement had a bitter expression. Looking at the rank one shoes in his hand, with 1,000,000 alpacas stampeding through his mind. How am I going to explain this to the family? Relying on his talent of plus 10% yield, plus the family spending a large amount of money to allow him to stay in the space for 2 days. During this period, mental energy replenishment and various means to assist in yield improvement were all used, and only then did he barely break this yield record. But Star Origin World, you only gave me a pair of shoes. This value isn't even comparable to the cost of mental energy supplements. How can I explain this to the family? However, this farmer, who had only recently changed professions, did not know that, despite using special items. Star Origin World still gave him a decent pair of shoes for the current stage, thanks to his low rank. If those high-rank individuals had done this, they would probably have only received keep up the good work and achieve new successes. Shen Xingyan, who had returned to the real world, also did not know what was happening behind this announcement. Even if he did, he could only smile faintly, indicating he was powerless to help. At this time, after dropping his sister off at school, he returned home and picked up the last of his life-saving 3-piece set of escape martial skill, Gale Step. Shen Xingyan roughly browsed through its contents, allowing his mind to become slightly familiar with it. Seeing that the comprehension skill's cooldown had finished, he no longer lingered, directly activated it, and began practicing Gale Step. As the practice of Gale Step progressed, Shen Xingyan's entire small courtyard slowly filled with his figures, and the frequency of his footsteps became increasingly rapid. However, the practice of Gale Step was different from the subduing demon staff. The commotion Shen Xingyan made during practice at this time, if one didn't see it with their own eyes, it would probably be difficult to hear that he was practicing a martial skill. This was because his footwork became increasingly light and agile, and the sound of his steps on the ground had already begun to become increasingly faint. Furthermore, as time passed, the subtlety of his footwork also became increasingly close to the movement of the transparent figure in his mind. With such visible progress, Shen Xingyan also immersed himself in this state of being in harmony with the wind, slowly experiencing the feeling of controlling the wind. Unconsciously, more than half an hour passed in this immersive state. As Shen Xingyan's footsteps suddenly accelerated, he nearly crashed into the wall because he didn't react in time. At this moment, he snapped out of that state, gently calmed his slightly panting breath, looked at the small courtyard covered with his footprints, and at the same time, savored the feeling of moving with the wind just now, marveling inwardly. He took out his star origin card and opened his attribute panel, and Gale Step martial skill prominently appeared on the panel. Gale Step initial understanding. After activating the martial skill, consume corresponding stamina to temporarily gain agility +1, speed +2. Current progress, 1%. No wonder I almost hit the wall just now. So Gale Step's getting started initial understanding provides a 3-point speed bonus. For me now, the increase is quite significant. Looking at the Gale Step that had reached initial understanding, Shen Xingyan couldn't help but recall the feeling from just now. He then put away his star origin card and seized the remaining insight time to continue practicing. Due to Gale Step's initial understanding, Shen Xingyan's movement speed became increasingly fast, and correspondingly, the courtyard seemed increasingly cramped. However, this not only didn't affect Shen Xingyan, who was in a state of insight, but also made his movement increasingly subtle and unpredictable without him realizing it. It seemed as if he was about to hit a wall the next instant. But his movement could precisely avoid such incidents while maintaining speed, much like performing a grand Dao ceremony in a snail's shell. In such training, his agility and speed were greatly improved, making Shen Xingyan look like a great master who had studied Gale Step for many years. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more updates and new uploads.